So distribution management is extremely important, and yesterday we discussed why we need distribution management, with various discrepancy it helps us to take care. We discussed about the channel flows, the physical flow, the title flow, finance flow, and finally the information flow, and how it helps in product utility, price utility, time utility, and finally you are the owner. But let's understand this with more examples. And in order to understand it with more examples, first let me speak as usual about my country. And when I talk about distribution management, as I told you last time, the number of case studies that you can get from India are amazing. We are such a huge country, and distribution management in India is something which has to be measured by a company in order to be successful. So be it our film industry, just look at the way how these films reach the halls, reach the different platforms, and what a big industry it is. Shakti Amma, which I discussed with you yesterday, then I shared the video, Arvind Eye Care, and then the great Indian election, the largest democracy in the world. And when we conduct the elections, what a great network we have, so that all the people, and in the last election, more than 900 million people were eligible to vote. If I put it in figures, we are talking about the Indian film industry, which according to the source is 183 billion Indian rupees. Shakti Amma, according to the annual report of Hindustan Unilever, there are 136,000 Shakti Ammas. Arvind Eye Care, in the year 1920, there were 4.6 million outpatients, and they conducted 5,20,000 surgeries. Just give me a minute. I'm in a class. And finally, the Indian election, where there were 10 lakh polling stations and more than 900 million eligible voters. All this wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a good distribution network. However, as I said, these were some of the concepts which we discussed yesterday: spatial discrepancy, temporal discrepancy, breaking the bulk, physical flow, payment flow. Let's see how we can apply this. So we'll do this with two examples, and absolutely simple examples: car and soap. So what if I'm a manufacturer of car, and what if I'm a manufacturer of soap? Two products which have no similarities between them. So here I would need your support. Let's first understand the spatial discrepancy part. So give me a minute, and I'm going to start the session live. Please visit canva.live and enter this code. And I want, just type the answer over there as to how do you think that spatial discrepancy differs for soap versus car. Now, what do I mean? I mean that if you have to buy a car, how much distance are you willing to travel, versus a soap, how much distance you are willing to travel? Because what is spatial discrepancy? Spatial discrepancy is how much the distance between the manufacturer and the consumer. The distribution network helps us to bridge that. So please, can you enter canva.live and enter the code and start typing the answers? Great. I would travel for 15-20 kilometers for a car, but 1 to 2 kilometers maximum for a soap. I would travel 15 to 20. Yes, car 500 kilometers. Would you travel 500 kilometers for the car also? Or maybe, yes, maybe if it's that luxury and car, which is, I mean, I assume that's what you're trying to say. Is it, Mr. Anonymous? It would be great if you can put your name. Anyone else?
Ma'am, that was me, the first one.
To the nearest dealership within the state at a maximum for a car, grocery store at a distance of 50 meters, or maybe not even travel anymore. Great. Anyone else? Around a few blocks for soap, but for a car, I would travel around 30 kilometers. So see, can you see the difference? For a car, you and I, we are willing to travel because we want a particular model or whatever. Not that we are buying just any soap, but for a soap, we are not willing to travel. So maybe you and I will go to the near grocer, may visit a nearby state if it's cheaper there, but soap I just order online. Maybe visit I can travel up to 50 kilometers for a car, but not more than 2 kilometers for a say, even 2 kilometers is great. I would travel more for a car, but not for a soap. Exactly. So the difference that is coming out is that you and I, we are willing to travel for a car. We are willing to travel 10 kilometers, 30 kilometers, 50 kilometers to buy the car that we want. But for a soap, no. Maybe you and I will just go to a grocer, say, bhaiya ye soap de do. And if he says that, sorry, I don't have this brand, I'm not sure whether I'm really willing to now travel a lot, or maybe I'll just buy another brand or something like that. But basically, yes, we are not willing to travel. Thank you so much for putting your answers and help me answer the next question also. So the next is, great, you told me about spatial discrepancy. Now what about temporal discrepancy? What is temporal discrepancy? How much are you and I willing to wait for the car versus soap? Which means if I go to a dealer and say I want a car, and he says, sir, it will be delivered within a week or 15 days, versus if I go to a grocer and say I want a soap, and he says, madam 15 din baad aana, how much are we willing to wait? Please, can you go ahead and post your answers again? What is the time difference that we are ready to accept for a car versus a soap? 10-15 minute max for a soap and 1 to 2 months for a car. Great, fantastic. Anand, thanks for writing your name. Kunj, thanks for writing your name. Anyone else? 1 year for car, instant for soap. For a month for a car, no waiting for soap. I want a soap immediately, and for car, I can wait till 15-20 days. Yes, so we are willing to wait for the car, but you and I, we are not willing. I will buy whichever soap is available, but I can wait for up to 6 months for a car. Absolutely true. We are willing to wait for the car, but we are not willing to wait for the soap. So are you seeing how different, though the basic remains the same? The distribution management is bridging the spatial discrepancy for soap and car. It is bridging the temporal discrepancy for the soap and car, but the implementation is entirely different. So the foundation remains the same, but the building that is coming up is different. For a car, I'm willing to travel. For a car, I'm willing to wait. For a soap, I'm not willing to travel. For a soap, I'm not willing to wait. Car, maybe 6 to 8 months. Soap, buy from a different grocery. I would wait for a car for like a couple of months, but not for the soap. Fantastic. Yes, please, there are just 2 more questions which I want you to answer. So we have understood spatial discrepancy and temporal discrepancy. Now breaking the bulk. When I'm talking about breaking the bulk, I really don't want you to answer this, because this is true. I mean, in the sense that you and I would buy 1 car, and if you belong to some great family, maybe you will buy 2-3 cars. But yes, we are not buying the factory. Similarly, for the soap, I mean, you would buy most probably 4-5 soaps, but again, you are not buying the entire factory. So breaking the bulk is true for both car and soap, almost in the same manner. But the next question, physical flow and payment flow. Now, what was the physical flow? If you remember, in the physical flow, we said it starts from the manufacturer, and then through transporter and warehouse, it reaches the dealer. While what is payment flow? The way payment is made. So let's first take the physical flow. Do you think the way a car is transported to a dealer from a manufacturer is different from the way a soap is delivered or transported from a manufacturer to a dealer? If yes, how? Physical flow is definitely happening. The car is reaching the dealer. The soap is also reaching the wholesaler. But how are they reaching? Is there a difference? soap are in more quantity than cars. Yes, fantastic. Can you also elaborate most probably the type of vehicle which we are using? So maybe soap can also go in that little tempo. Can a car also go in that little tempo? Mode of transportation differs. Yes, Ashi, I completely agree with you. Can you, if possible, can you specify? Soumya says, yes, specified trucks are sent for cars. Fantastic. Yes, you see those whole big containers. If you've ever seen those big containers on the road, they are carrying those cars. So the kind of vehicle which we will use for transportation of the soap is very different from the kind of vehicle which we will use for the car. And once the vehicle has reached, where do we store it? I mean, would the warehouse for the car be the same as the warehouse for a soap? How much space do I need to put soap? Most probably compared to how much space you need to keep an inventory of cars. Again, the kind of warehouse will differ. And finally, the payment flow. Here, I really want you to contribute. What are your ideas about, for cars? It depends upon company. A car can also be shipped via cargo ships. Yes, but not soaps. Okay, Utanshi. Good. Payment flow. Can somebody elaborate on the payment flow? So if you remember, the payment flow is the only flow which goes in the reverse direction, which means we are talking from the customer to the manufacturer. You pay for the car, you pay for the soap. Then why are we talking about payment flow? Anyone who can specify what are we talking about when we are talking about the payment flow? I mean, will it differ? If yes, how? And if no, then how not? Then why not? EMI versus one-time payment. Fantastic, Sanskar. Very good. Anonymous, you can make down payments or EMI for the car, but not for the soap. Very good. Yes, absolutely true. Most of the population in my country, when we buy a car, we buy it on loan, which means the bank comes into the picture. For a soap, it's on the spot in cash, and for the car, its loans are there. Fantastic, Soumya, absolutely right. Which means that if I'm a car manufacturer, I need to tie up with the bank, right? Because when you go to dealers, you must have seen that there are, they say, sir, would you like to take a loan? And they have these tie-ups with the bank. A soap can easily be bought at a grocery store. It's a tiny payment, but a car is more of an investment and paid in installments with borrowed money. Fantastic, Srinidhi. Absolutely right. So, though we are receiving, the consumer is paying both for the car as well as for the soap. But not only banks, but also insurance. Yes, you don't need any insurance for the soap. You definitely need insurance for the car. So while the payment flow is happening both for the soap as well as for the car, the foundation remains the same, but the implementation is so different. And I'm talking from the point of view of the consumer. While you have to involve the banks, because we are talking about loan when it comes to car, while for soap, it's completely cash. You give the cash or you make instant payment, whatever digital payment, and you buy the soap. So though the needs or the different things remain the same, for the distribution management bridges the spatial discrepancy, the temporal discrepancy, the breaking of the bulk, physical flow, payment flow. All this is true for both car and the soap. However, the implementation is absolutely different. And because the implementation is absolutely different, the picture is different. I'm ending the live session now so that we can come to the presentation. Sorry. Yeah. Oh. Okay. But the implementation, as I said, brings about an absolutely different picture. So the moment you look at this, for a car, we are willing to travel and wait, while for a soap, we are not willing to travel and wait. So what does it mean? It means that for a car, how does this result in the distribution management? So for a soap, you will find a number of retailers. In a little area of 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, you will most probably find 10, 15, 20 retailers selling soap. However, for a car, most probably in an area of 10 or 20 kilometers, you would find one dealer. Why? Because people are willing to travel. It doesn't make sense to have a car dealer after every kilometer. How does this result in inventory? This also results in a different inventory. What does it mean? That if people are willing to wait for the car, then I can go easy on my inventory. On the other hand, people are not willing to wait. What does it mean? It means that I should always have an inventory of soap, because if it is not there, then people will leave. I will lose my customers. Physical flow. It says no inventory, less inventory. It's not less inventory, big warehouse, and I need special transportation. While over here, I always need inventory. The warehouse can be small, and the transport is also not such a headache. Again, financial flow, loan by customers on credit. While here it is payment by cash, what does it mean? You have to tie up with a bank, while over here, you don't have to really do anything. So while this remains the same, and this will be the foundation for all your decisions of distribution management, but look at the implementation. I have taken such different examples so that the implementation is absolutely clear. The implementation results into absolutely different distribution networks. In short, what you have to do is first identify the need, right? What may be the needs, the various discrepancies. Bridge those discrepancies. Once you have bridged those discrepancies, then use the channel, identify the channel flows and work on the channel flows. What kind of a warehouse I need? What is the level of inventory? What kind of transportation do we need? How will the finances work? What kind of ownership are we talking about? Once you have been able to take care of these two, you have the consumer who gets the product at the place, at the price, at the time, and is the owner. And yes, keep updating yourself about the needs of the customer, because what may be true may not be true tomorrow. And if things have to change, then again, you have to start working on it. Look at various examples. Who would have thought that people, that's why different who would have thought that you and I can sit at home and just buy online anytime? We don't have to go anywhere. And I'm not talking about some ancient times, your time, till just 5 years back or 6 years back. We were not comfortable shopping online the way we are today. What does it mean? You and I, as a manufacturer, 6 years ago, I could afford to say, I don't want to be present online. I don't want to sell my products online. Today, you and I can't do that. You may have your brick and mortar store. You may continue to have your brick and mortar store. You should have your brick and mortar store, but please update yourself. You also need to bridge the discrepancy by understanding that online is also a platform. At this point of time, let me stop the recording. Let me come back to the class, and I'll open the house for discussion before proceeding ahead.